Hello there, and I'm going to teach you how to solve a quadratic equation using complete the square. Well, by completing the square. When you're completing the square to solve a quadratic equation, the quadratic equation should be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. This is going by if x is equal to 1. So therefore, when you're completing a square, this is the method that you'd use when your quadratic formula begins with x squared. There'll be questions where you will have to complete the square, solve it by completing the square, but the coefficient of x squared, so that means a might not equal to 1, it might equal 2. So therefore you might have to complete the square, solve this quadratic formula, for example 2x squared plus 3x minus 4. In this case, for this video, I'm just going to show you when the coefficient is 1, so it's when you're working with quadratic equations that begin with x squared and no other coefficients, whether it's 2x squared or 3x squared. I'll show you that in another video on how you can complete the square to solve quadratic equations that have a coefficient other than 1 for the x squared. So to complete the square, you must create an initial bracket to match the coefficients in x squared plus bx. So the initial bracket is x plus b over 2. So this is all in brackets squared. So you have to match this to this, basically. And then once you multiply the brackets to compare if it matches the original quadratic equation, you'll find out what adjusting number you need to add or subtract to work out the difference. So let's move on to the first question. Solve the equation x squared plus 4x minus 10 equals 0 using complete the square. So first, rewrite the question. So x squared plus 4x minus 10. See how it's written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So for us to decide, what x squared plus bx and what b is and what x plus b over 2 is going to be, we need to know what our a values, our b values, and our c values. So for this equation, a will equal 1, as I've explained in the beginning of the video. B, because the quadratic formula is written in the form of plus bx, this is plus 4x, so therefore b is equal to 4. And c, because it's plus c, and this is minus 10, therefore c is equal to minus 10. So now we've got our a values, our b values, and our c values. We only really need our b value, but it's good to make habit of writing down your a values and b values and your c values in case, let's say you're not using the method of complete the square to solve the quadratic equation. You might just use the quadratic formula. Therefore, you'd need the values of a, b, and c to work out your quadratic equation, to solve it by putting it into the quadratic formula. If you want to know how to solve quadratic equations by using a quadratic formula, watch my previous video on solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So let's move forward with this question. So we've got our b value. So first, we want to create our initial, first we want to decide, we want to write out x squared plus bx. So x squared plus bx, because b is equal to 4, it will be x squared plus 4x. Okay. Now we want to make that equal to our initial bracket. So our initial bracket is in the form of x plus b over 2 squared. So we know b is 4. So therefore, we're just going to write out x plus 4, because that's equal to b, over 2 squared. Okay. And make sure they match each other. So therefore now you have x squared plus 4x is equal to x plus 2 squared. So now we're going to work out what x plus 2 squared is. I'm just going to expand that bracket. So x plus 2 squared, oops, is equal to x squared plus 4x plus 4. Because we need to get it to match, we need to get the x plus, we need to get this, the initial bracket, which is x plus 2 squared, to match x squared plus 4x. So because we have on the right side x squared plus 4x plus 4, to get this to match that to x squared plus 4x only, we minus 4 here. So we bring it over to the left side. So now we have x plus 2 squared is equal to, minus 4 is equal to x squared plus 4x, plus 4x. So now we've got it in the form of this. The initial bracket matches the coefficients of x squared plus 4x. So let's just move this to the, we're just going to switch positions. They're still going to be equal to each other. So we're just going to write in the form of x squared plus 4x. So we're going to put this onto the left hand side and we're going to move this to the right hand side. It's still going to be equal to each other. They're just the same thing, just flip sides. So x squared plus plus 4x is equal to, open bracket, x plus 2 squared minus 4. You just see what I've done? I just move this to the position of the right, to the right hand side, and move this to the left hand side. Still equal to each other. So now, because we're trying to solve the equation x squared plus 4x minus 10, we've already got x squared plus 4x. We need to get it to match the original equation. So here we've already got x squared plus 4x. We just need to add the minus 10 so that we can solve this equation. So that we've got it in the form of, we've basically matched the, we have matched the initial bracket and whatever adjusted number we've needed to the original quadratic equation, basically. So x squared plus 4x minus 10 is equal to, we're going to do big brackets, is x plus 2 squared minus 4, close big brackets, minus 10. Do you see what I've done? Because x squared plus 4x is equal to, open bracket, x plus 2 close bracket squared minus 4. When x squared plus 4x minus 10, you just simply, because you've minus 10 on the left hand side, you minus 10 on the right hand side. So therefore, we collect the like terms. So x squared plus 4x minus 10 is equal to, open bracket, x plus 2, close bracket, squared. What's minus 4 minus 10 is minus 14. So now the equation is, open bracket, x plus 2 close bracket squared minus 14, and that's equal to 0. But remember, we need to solve x now. So we're not done. So to solve x, work out what x is equal, we want to get x on its own. So first, we move 14 to the other side so that we just work with x on its own. So we do plus 14. So now it becomes just x plus 2 squared, and that is equal to 14. We want to get rid of the squared to the power of 2. So we square root that. Whatever you square root the left-hand side, you also square root the right-hand side. So now you only have x plus 2 is equal to plus or minus square root of 14. This is because, well, once we work out, I'll show you why, it's plus or minus. So we're going to put this into 2 decimal places. So x plus 2 is equal to square root, the plus or minus, so it'll be plus or minus square root of 14. Square root of 14, we're going to do this to 2 decimal places. So that's 3.74. The reason why it's plus or minus is because when you're working out a square root of a number, you're trying to work out you're trying to work out what number multiplies itself to get 14 to that number. So when we're trying to work out the square root of 14, what number multiplies itself to get 14? In this case, it's 3.74. But the same way how positive 3.74 can multiply by positive 3.74 to get 14, the same way how negative 3.74 multiplied by negative 3.74 can also get 14. That's why you write plus or minus whatever the answer to the square root is. So now x is equal to, it's going to have 2 values when x is equal to, when positive 3.74 is minus 2, because we want to get x on its own. So now, because it's x plus 2, we want to subtract 2 to get rid of the positive 2. Whatever you do to the left hand side, you do to the right hand side. So that's equal to what? So 3. Forgot to put a step in. When you're writing in terms of decimal places, because it's not specified in the beginning question what you wanted to solve it to decimal places, make sure you put it to whatever decimal place you want to put it down to. So because I've put it to 2 decimal places, just put in brackets 2 dp. If you want to put it to 3 decimal places, 3 dp. Or 1 decimal place, 1 dp. Only do that when the question's not being specified what they want the answer to be in the form of, if it's 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places. So, okay, so 3.74 minus 2 is 1.74, and x is equal to negative 3.74 minus 2 is equal to negative 5.74. So therefore, solutions are x is equal to 1.74 to 2 dp, and x is also equal to minus 5.74 to 2 dp. And there you have your solutions. You worked out your solutions by completing the square. You have solved your first quadratic equation by completing the square. Pat yourself on the back. So let's move on to the next question now. The same steps as we did in the first step, except for this time we just leave it in the form of here. So we don't need to in the form of x plus m squared plus n. So we don't need to go further and work out what x is equal to and work out its solutions. It's basically asking us to leave it in this form here. So we just stop right when we get to this step here. We don't need to go any further and work out its solutions. That's what this question is asking. So the same process, we work out what our a, b, and c values. So here a is equal to 1, b is equal to minus 12, c is equal to positive 23. So now we need to work with the b values, but it's good to have your a, b, and c values, as I mentioned in the previous question, in case you're using a quadratic formula to solve this equation. Therefore, you need your a, b, and c values, and you will need to use both of them. So we need to create our initial bracket first. So we need to write first the match the coefficient x squared plus bx. And we need to make sure it matches the initial bracket. So x squared plus bx, because b is equal to minus 12. So it'll be x squared minus 12x is equal to, open bracket, x plus b over 2. But so we're going to write it how it is, and you'll see what I mean. So it's more or less writing x is minus 12 over 2. So we'll just write it in the form of, because it's x plus b over 2 for our initial bracket. So that'll be, because b is equal to minus 12, we do minus 12 over 2, close bracket, squared. Therefore, x squared minus 12x is equal to x. So plus, minus, when you plus and a minus, that makes a minus. Therefore, you've got x minus 12 over 2, which is x is minus 6 squared. So now we're going to expand the brackets. Now we're at this step, we're going to expand the brackets just like how we did in the first question. So we're going to work out what x minus 6 squared is equal to. So that is x squared minus 12x plus 36. So that's what we've got now. Because we need to make the initial bracket match the 12 for x squared minus 12x. We need to make sure that this matches that. To get x squared minus 12x, we simply subtract by minus 36. So therefore we will have x minus 6 squared minus 36, and that's equal to x squared minus 12x. So again, we just just have them switch positions. So we just put x squared minus 12x is equal to, open bracket, x minus 6 squared minus 36 So now we've got what, x squared minus 12x. But because the equation is asking us to express x squared minus 12x plus 23, so we add the 23 on here, and what you do to the left hand side, you also do to the right hand side. So x squared minus 12x plus 23 is equal to, let's put the big brackets in, open bracket, x minus 6 close bracket squared minus 36 plus 23. Because what you did to the left hand side, you also do to the right hand side. So therefore, x squared minus 12x plus 23 is equal to x minus 6 squared. Oh, let's get that underscore out of the way. Oh, ooh. X minus 6 squared. And what's minus 36? Numlock was off. Haha. So what's minus 36 plus 23? That is minus 13. So now we've got x minus 6 squared minus 13. And that's it. We've put it into the form of x plus m squared plus n. We've left it in this form now. We don't need to go any further and work out solutions or any of that. We can leave it in this form. It's good to show that you've truly worked out the question. Write down what m is equal to. So m is equal to minus 6 and n is equal to minus 13. Just to show how you truly understood the question and you've truly put it back into that form. You'd write, because you've written in this form of x plus m squared plus n, just to show you've truly understood the question. Write down what m is equal to and what n is equal to, and you're done. Let's move on to the final question. Solve the equation x squared plus 5x minus 5 to 2 decimal places. So same process as we've done with the first question, same steps. This time, just like with the first question, we're going to go and find what x is equal to. So we're going to match the initial bracket with the coefficients x squared plus 5x. So first, actually, we need to first identify what a, b, and c is. So a is equal to 1, b is equal to 5, and c is equal to minus 5. So now we're going to match initial bracket. Remember, initial bracket is x plus b over 2. B here in this case is 5. So we're going to do x squared plus 5x is equal to x plus b over 5 over 2, because b is equal to 5 squared. So that's just the same as writing, because we're not going to leave it in fractional form because it looks messy. So that's the same as writing x squared plus 5x is equal to x plus 2.5 squared. So now, same process. We're going to work with what you're going to get when you expand x plus 2.5 squared. So that is x squared plus 5x plus 6.25, because 2.5 multiplied by 2.5 is 6.25. But because we were trying to get the initial bracket to match x squared plus 5x, we're going to minus 6.25 so that this matches x squared plus 5x. So now we're going to get open bracket x plus 2.5 close bracket x squared minus 6.25. That's equal to x squared plus 5x. So now we just rewrite it, but this time the side's flipped. So x squared plus 5x is equal to open bracket x plus 2.5 close bracket squared minus 6.25. Because we're trying to solve the equation, so x squared plus 5x, we know what that is equal to. But this equation, this original quadratic equation, we're trying to get it to match this. So we need to add, we add the minus 5 to the minus 5 on both sides. So what you do to the left hand side, just so that it matches the original equation. So it'll be x squared plus 5x minus 5, just like the original equation. What you do to the left hand side, you also do to the right hand side. So you'll also minus the right hand side by minus 5. So that'll be big brackets, small brackets, x plus 2.5 close bracket squared minus 6.25 minus 5. So now we've got x squared plus 5x minus 5 is equal to x plus 2.5 squared minus 6.25 minus 5, which is equal to minus 11.25. So therefore now the equation becomes open bracket x plus 2.5 close bracket squared minus 11.25 is equal to 0. So now we need to solve for x. Just like in the first question, so we get x on its own. So first we plus by 11.25, so we move it to the other side. So now it becomes open bracket x plus 2.5 squared is equal to 11.25. To get rid of the product power of 2, we square root it. What you do to the left hand side, you also do to the right hand side. So now we get x plus 2.5 is equal to plus or minus square root 11.25. Because this question wants us in to do decimal places, we can do x is equal to positive. We can just work out, we're just going to put it to two decimal places at the end. So positive 11.25 minus 2.5, because we want to get x on its own. So to get rid of the positive 2.5, we minus by 2.5. So that's equal to, we're going to get it to two decimal places. So square root 11.25 minus 2.5 is equal to 0.85. And that's to 2 dp. So we've worked out one solution. Going to work out the second solution. So negative square root of 11.25 minus 2.5. What does that equal? That equals minus 5.85 to 2 dp. So now x is equal to 0.85 and x is also equal to minus 5.85. And there are your two solutions. There we have solved the equation of x squared plus 5x minus 5 by completing the square. So that is how you solve quadratic equations using the completing the square method. Thank you for listening and goodbye.